entertained? Are you not entertained?
Would you consider gladiators in ancient Rome as cosplayers? They wore costumes, they performed for a crowd, and they assumed a role. What about actors in a medieval theater play? Most would probably say no. So, where do we draw the line? If we accept that not everyone in a costume is a cosplayer, then we must accept that cosplay is something specific, something distinct from the masquerades of the past. Which brings us to the thesis of the video. Cosplay is a relatively modern phenomenon that exists because of mass media. It is not just the act of wearing a costume, it is a response to popular culture. Cosplay only works because it is based on fictional characters in science fiction, animation, comics, video games, movies, and the like. You need a character or characters to reference from whatever piece of popular new media in order to be able to cosplay. Without the mass distribution of these characters through media channels, the activity we know as cosplay simply cannot exist. To prove that cosplay is a byproduct of mass media rather than just costuming, we must look at its history. There are some disagreements among scholars on when the first cosplay happened. Therefore, I'm just going to point out all the times where the people dressing up could be considered as cosplay, and you will see that the costumes always follow the media. The earliest proto-examples align with the rise of popular science fiction literature. First was in April 2nd, 1877, by the French novelist Jules Verne, where he and his wife hosted a massive masquerade ball where guests dressed up as science fiction characters from his novels. Even here, the costumes were not generic. They were references specific to fictional works. As visual media began to take hold, the practice evolved. Another instance is the cosplay of Mr. Skygack by William Fell in 1908 from the comic strip Mr. Skygack from Mars by the American comic artist Armando Dreisbach-Kondo. William went to a masquerade event in Cincinnati, Ohio, along with his wife who also cosplayed as Miss Dill Pickles. There's another pattern here. William Fell cosplayed as a specific character from a comic strip. As cinema became the dominant form of entertainment, fans followed suit. In 1939, there's Forrest J. Ackerman and Myrtle Morojo Douglas cosplaying as characters from the British science fiction movie Things to Come. The event took place at the first World Science Fiction Convention, or Worldcon, in New York City. This event would continue to be held annually until now, with a brief exception during World War II. This established the convention as a place for fans to do such media-based performances. The spread of television further popularized cosplay. Starting from 1966, there's the original Star Trek TV series, which led to fans cosplaying as well. Media consumption was becoming even more mainstream. The first Star Trek fan convention was held at the Newark Public Library in New Jersey on March 1st, 1969. Shortly after, in 1970, there's the San Diego Comic-Con, creating a centralized hub for fans. In Japan, the parallel evolution of media fandom led to the creation of Comiket, or Comic Maka, in 1975. The term cosplay itself was created in 1984 by the Japanese film producer Nobuyuki Takahashi. Cosplay, or cosupure in Japanese, is short for costume play. Before the term cosplay became common, people referred to the activity as costuming, masquerade, or kaso in Japanese. There is often confusion regarding specific historical instances in Japan. For example, in 1978, the Japanese feminist and science fiction author Mariko Tani cosplayed as a character from the cover illustration of the 1967 Japanese translation of Edgar Rice Burroughs' 1931 novel A Fighting Man of Mars. This took place at Nihon SF Taikai at Ashinoko Lake Hotel, Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan. So no, Kotani did not cosplay as a character from Triton of the Sea. By the early 2000s, cosplay had gotten big enough for it to be a global phenomenon. Reportedly, there was actually an international cosplay competition before the World Cosplay Summit. According to Widya Santoso, the International Yamato Cup was held in Brazil in 2001, where cosplayers from all over South America participated in the competition. Fast forward to 2003 and you have the first World Cosplay Summit in Nagoya, Japan. The World Cosplay Summit was founded by Tokumaru Oguri and Edmund Hoff. It is also the largest and most prestigious cosplay competition in the world. As of 2025, there are almost 250,000 visitors, with representatives from more than 40 countries participating in the competition. If history proves that cosplay relies on media, sociological approaches show that it is a subculture. Cosplay is inherently social, and it is considered a subculture in the sense that it exists as a subset of a broader, more mainstream nerdy popular culture. Cosplayers are not a monolith, and they come from different walks of life. Nevertheless, there are some patterns that could be discerned. Most cosplayers are female. The average age of cosplayers varies, though they usually lean younger, either somewhere between teenagers to young adults. As for race and ethnicity, that varies by region. However, there are some exceptions when it comes to gender, depending on the fandom. Two examples of these are the furry fandom and military cosplay, where the majority are male. The genres of cosplay directly reflect the consumption of global mass media. I'm going to cover some of them in no particular order, but keep in mind that this is not an exhaustive list. Anime and manga cosplay is among the most popular, if not the most popular genre of cosplay. When people make the association between cosplay and Japanese popular culture, this is the most obvious one. A lot of cosplayers would typically cosplay popular seasonal anime, though there are some classics that would still show up, such as One Piece, Dragon Ball, Naruto, etc. There are some classics that go even further back, such as those from the 1980s, but in my personal experience, such cosplayers are few in numbers. One small note. When I say anime and manga, I also include anime-style sources such as visual novels, virtual YouTubers, webtoons, anime-style music videos, fan arts, etc. For example, I've personally seen Hatsune Miku cosplayers when I went to anime conventions, both the classic blue version and the rabbit hole version. Comic book cosplays are popular too, just like manga cosplays. In the West, cosplay characters from Marvel and DC comics are common, but there are also others like Homestuck and Scott Pilgrim. Similarly, video game cosplays are also very popular, which is unsurprising since the global video game market is massive and worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Both video game cosplays from the West and the East are popular, whether it be from Fallout, Resident Evil, or Genshin Impact. Movies and TV shows are also popular sources of cosplay. As mentioned earlier, Star Trek fans or Trekkies are among the earlier pioneers of cosplay. Also, the box office successes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, DC Extended Universe, Star Wars, and others mean that you see a lot of cosplay of characters from these media franchises. Another thing that you see often in anime conventions and other similar places is casual cosplay, everyday cosplay, or closet cosplay, which basically means wearing normal clothing and accessories that resemble certain fictional characters. For example, a lot of anime fans might wear a green and black kimono cape from Demon Slayer or a brown coat from Attack on Titan. In fact, this specific phenomenon occurs in Disney theme parks and it is known as Disney bounding. Basically, adults can't cosplay as Disney characters inside these theme parks, so people wear casual clothes that are inspired by certain characters by matching colors or style. It's a bit hard to explain exactly what is the relationship between identity and cosplay since the concept is not fixed. But what is for certain is that identity plays a very important role in cosplay. Cosplay is also a form of self-expression, where a lot of cosplayers choose their characters because they relate to them. Sometimes cosplayers act out their true personalities through cosplay, or do things they would otherwise not do in their everyday life. Cosplay also allows a cosplayer to act out personalities that are different to their own. This expression takes unique forms in specific subcultures. One fandom that relies on original characters is the furry fandom. The members of this community are known as furries.
19 people were hospitalized at a furry convention in Illinois after what's being called an intentional leak of chlorine
What's
gas.
a furry?
Strong odor of chlorines. What? Spread?
Many still dressed in their furry costumes. Hotel
Where are you going?
Contaminated.
Hey!
Guests came back.
Come back!
So furries are fans who like and dress up as anthropomorphic animal-like characters. Furries have their own unique characters with their own personalities, which are called fursonas, and they express that by dressing up in costumes known as fursuits. As mentioned earlier, most furries are male. If you've watched a lot of anime and read tons of manga, you would have encountered the concept of turning literally anything into a cute anime girl. The Japanese term for this is Gijinka, which translates to humanization or anthropomorphization. The main thing with Gijinka though is that it has to be moe, which is a colloquial Japanese term for an effective response to fictional characters. Examples include Uma Musume, Kamino Friends, Cells at Work, Kantai Collection, The Grok Companion Annie, etc. While there isn't a hard line between furry and animal-based Gijinka or other characters, there are differences. There are some furry charts and scales on the internet as references, but most characters from, say, Nekobara or Monster Musume would not fall under the furry category. There is one type of fashion subculture that might or might not be considered cosplay, Lolita. Lolita fashion emerged in the early 1970s in Harajuku, Japan, and is based on the aesthetics of Victorian England. The characteristics of Lolita fashion aim to depict an innocent or childlike appearance. To convey that kawaii impression, accessories such as knee socks, lace, ribbon hairbands, and teddy bears are usually used. Another one that's culture-specific is hijab cosplay. Many Muslim girls and women who wear the hijab are also anime and manga fans. So, in order to cosplay while still covering themselves, they wear a hijab with their cosplay. Typically, the hijab would mimic the hair color or be folded in such a way for it to resemble the hairstyle of the character they're cosplaying. Just like the rules in Islam in covering up for women, hijab cosplay doesn't only mean covering the hair, but also other parts of the body, except the face and the hand. Cosplay can be very complicated and expensive, depending on the character as well as the dedication of the cosplayers themselves. The easy route is usually to use clothing and objects that you already own or buy one online, especially at a Chinese e-commerce store. The harder and more creative route is to make the cosplay and props yourself. Creativity and craftsmanship are very important. This is why many cosplayers take pride in their own creations and might even be offended if you were to even suggest or imply that their cosplays are bought online. In fact, competitive and professional cosplayers can easily spend thousands of dollars for a cosplay set. Crossplay is another genre of cosplay where people dress up as a character of a different gender to their own ascribed gender. While the majority of crossplayers are female to male, there are a significant minority of male to female crossplayers as well. Some famous examples include Sailor Bubba and Manfei. There are a lot of scholars that draw the connection between crossplay and drag. One distinction that is mentioned is that drag is a form of parody of femininity, while crossplay is about trying to resemble a particular character as accurately as possible, even though the gender is different. Another point is sexuality. Drag is usually associated with being gay, while male to female crossplayers point out that they are straight. Keep in mind that not everyone accepts these arguments. For example, Theresa Wingy explicitly mentions that crossplayers themselves reject that cosplay is drag, and cosplay does not always include elements of gender play like drag. Furthermore, there are physiological limitations when it comes to dressing up as characters of the opposite sex. That's why serious crosplayers go to considerable lengths to be as convincing as possible, such as wearing breast bindings or tucking the male private parts. Military cosplay is also pretty common to see in pop culture conventions. Even though I say military, I also include others like law enforcement and paramilitary. As mentioned earlier, the vast majority of such cosplayers are males. I've personally only seen one instance of girls in military cosplay, and even then they were cosplaying as a group that included male cosplayers as well. As a general rule, you should not do cosplays that resemble current and actual military or law enforcement in that country or region. For example, if you're in Japan, you shouldn't wear a Japan Self-Defense Forces military cosplay. But you can dress up as the Austrian painter Mustache Man.
Das war ein Befehl!
Cosplay is inherently social. In the cosplay communities, just like in any other fandoms, there are good things and bad things. And a lot of times, these things are contradictory, yet they occur at the same time. The community is very welcoming to newcomers. Though, if you dig deep enough, you will eventually find criticisms launched against cosplayers, both by outsiders as well as cosplayers themselves. They range from character accuracy, the cost and quality of the materials, body shaming, things related to the identity of the cosplayers themselves such as race, ethnicity, gender, revealing and sexy cosplays, gatekeeping, and many more. A significant issue is harassment. Many of these rules regarding cosplay and cosplayers exist because there have been many cases of harassment. Cosplayers would get groped, harassed, catcalled, followed, and even assaulted. There are campaigns such as Cosplays Not Consent and Geeks of Consent to spread awareness and prevent these kinds of things from happening in the future. In the United States, there's the Cosplayer Survivor Support Network, which has collected data on anti-harassment policies at cosplay sites across the country. Finally, we must acknowledge that cosplay has evolved into an economic ecosystem. It is not just a hobby, it is a small industry. I mentioned earlier about the World Cosplay Summit in Nagoya, Japan, which is the biggest cosplay competition globally. What you typically see is that in a convention, cosplayers sign up for the cosplay competition, where there will be a panel of judges who are often cosplayers themselves. The participants will not only try to wear costumes that are accurate and faithful to the original source, they will also perform or act as if they are those characters in the flesh. Preparations can take weeks, months even. Winners often get financial prizes, but probably the most important one is prestige, since the cosplayers become even more well-known within the community. There was even a TV show dedicated for it called Heroes of Cosplay on Sci-Fi Channel in 2013. However, the show is not without controversies, such as its representational bias toward competitive cosplayers. In many ways, the cosplayers also participate in the local creative economy. Many cosplayers are entrepreneurs themselves, where they would create and sell cosplay props. Or perhaps they are creative artists in adjacent fields where they would open their own booths and sell their own merchandise at conventions. Some of these cosplayers are actually famous enough to be hired by certain companies in the conventions to pose as booth babes. Many cosplayers are essentially mini idols where they would be famous on social media such as Instagram, X, TikTok, and have thousands of followers. Famous cosplayers include Yaya Han, Jessica Nigri, Kamui Cosplay, and many others. Fans would subscribe to them, and many do pay for exclusive content, usually in the form of both physical and digital photo packs. Just like many things in life, sex sells. So there are a lot of content creators who create adult content by wearing sexy cosplays. These kinds of content are allowed on certain digital platforms such as OnlyFans, where there is a patronage model. So many content creators would publish safe content on their main social media page while redirecting them to OnlyFans, where patrons would pay for exclusive adult content. In every large anime convention where there are cosplayers, there are also cosplay photographers. While most cosplayers are girls, the vast majority of cosplay photographers are guys. These photographers vary from the amateur hobbyists with a simple pocket camera all the way to semi-professionals with their large complete gear that costs thousands of dollars. Since there are a lot of people in a large convention, cosplayers and photographers can sometimes obstruct traffic. This is why in some conventions there are dedicated spaces for cosplayers and photographers to take pictures. They are sometimes located in either near the entrance or the exit, or somewhere near the venue itself. In Japan, there are many strict rules regarding photography in fan spaces in anime conventions. To conclude, cosplay is inherently modern, and its existence relies entirely on the emergence and spread of mass media characters. And remember kids, cosplay is for everyone. It doesn't matter how old you are, or if you are still a beginner, because you are more than welcome to do cosplay, even if it's something very simple and easy. So go to the next con and play your part. It is an experience that is truly sublime. Just keep the passion in your heart. Thank you for watching, and until next time.